Hello.
Hello?
Hey guys. Can you guys hear us clearly? Can I just get a confirmation on the chat that you guys can hear us nice and smooth? Yes, okay. So welcome to another special edition of the Shadow News. Obviously, you know why we're here. We are here to talk about the pre-order delay. And I'm joined by a new special guest who is here to help explain some more technical side of things. And I'll let you introduce yourself, Arnaud.
Yeah. So, hello everyone. I'm Arnaud, for those who do not know me yet. I'm part of the dev team. I work with the other Arnaud that you may have seen on the Twitch channel too. So my job is to handle and manage the release manager team. So we work with every dev team, the tech teams, to develop and release the new piece of software of Shadow on the client side, on the Shadow part, and even on the hardware part that you don't see. We have a team that is specialized in this, in the virtualization side. So we handle all those tech components and make sure that everything goes smooth from dev to client using the new features or bug fixes and so on.
Okay. And I know that you talk a lot also with our moderators, correct, on Discord to get feedback, to see how things are going.
I try to, but it takes a lot of time because there are many of them, and I also have many devs to manage every day. But yeah, we have a big input with the community to get very fast feedbacks because when we release something really new, we need to know really fast if it goes well or if it doesn't, we need to get a really quick feedback so we can fix it in the next hours or days in the worst case scenario.
Makes sense.
Sometimes weeks, but I won't say it.
Yeah. Well, as soon as possible, really. Yeah. So that's Arnaud's job in a nutshell. So let's just get on with the news. To give you an overview of what we'll be discussing today, we are going to talk about the more technical side of the issues, what caused the delays for mostly Infinite and Ultra. We're going to talk about our communication, why we waited so long to actually announce this delay. And then we'll talk about any current issues that we're currently trying to work through to fulfill the activations of Infinite and Ultra. And then, of course, as usual, we'll take a Q&A at the end and answer all your questions. If you have any tech-specific questions, Arnaud will do his best job to answer them. So hold them until the end of our presentation, and we can then go into that. So let's talk about the technical causes of the delay. So when we first launched and announced these new offers, we definitely were very confident we could fulfill it. And this was we thought we could do it within 6 months. However, the two new offers that we announced, which are Ultra and Infinite, have very atypical hardware with a lot of unknowns, uncertainties that we encountered throughout our testing period. Correct? Yeah. And now, so what are the problems that we encountered while leading up to the launch?
There's been a few. The thing is, we really started to work with OVH 6 months ago. It was in August, so not the best month to start something because not everyone is on board or ready to work on the subject, but it started at this time. And 6 months later, we have something almost ready for end users, so that's kind of a big deal.
Yes.
And so in the 6 months, we had to define the right hardware to test who could be the most the better for each offer segment.
Most optimal?
Yeah, most optimal for the experience, for the price, and other thing for the better hardware also to integrate in our stack, because we can't just throw some hardware and make it work with our softwares.
Sure.
So we have to select some CPUs, some RAM, every part of the hardware, even the hard disk drives and SSDs have to be selected carefully. We can just buy everything that is on the shelves and say, go back in our data center, plug them in, and it's gonna work. So we had first to define the exact, precise component list, and then order it. And we had a few steps. First, we started with one server of each, just to see if it works, if we can run Shadow on it, if users can access it correctly and have a good experience. And then we added a few more of each offer, added more users on it. At this point, it was fine. It was working as expected. And then we started BFH, so Battle for Hardware, where...
So maybe we can explain first, people that don't know what Battle for Hardware is. What is essentially, we, as Arnaud said, we had these test servers with configurations for Ultra and Infinite, and we onboarded about, I think it was 600 people.
Yeah, at the
give or take at the
peak it was about 600, 650.
Okay.
Public users, and then the beta testers, we can call them.
Sure.
And then some on our sites too. So a bit more, but for public it was 600, 650 users.
And those and so we had this is called Battle for Hardware. This is the testing period of it, and the results. How were they during this testing period?
We found a lot of stuff to dig. So the first thing we found is that we had an issue with a motherboard that we didn't see earlier, because we weren't stressing and rebooting the servers enough during our test. And during the first test, all the software weren't included in the stack, so some were missing because it wasn't needed just for one server to have all those services running. But when we added everything required to get Shadow to work on production, then the motherboard had some issue, and then we had to find what was the issue. So during because there's something wrong, but you don't know why you cannot get the GPU. You don't find the GPU, you reboot the server, everything is good. So it's pretty weird. So we had to find out that the motherboard at the default, that it was, I can say it was from the BIOS. So it's really the first part that is powering the motherboard and initializing all the internal components on the motherboard. So it was a pretty huge deal, and the manufacturer, we worked with them for a few weeks to see if they could fix the bug, what was their solution, and they already fixed the bug with a newer version, but it included something we didn't want to add in our system, a limitation. So we had to make a deal with them to make a specific version for us. It's not something that you can do just like that. I think just put me this fix, but not this feature that I don't want to. When they are manufacturing hundreds and thousands of motherboards, you can just say, I want this, but not that. It's not a car with some options you buy.
So customization, scalability are all very big issues.
Exactly.
In this
and
case.
so we had to... So we have a fix for this motherboard, but we knew we couldn't grow and scale, as you say, with this motherboard. It was too impactful to stay on this model. So we had to find another model during the test. So we already were about 6 months after the first negotiations with OVH. So we were testing the hardware that should have been used for the production. So at this point, they were already planning on producing the servers. So it was really a hard time to figure out how to change the motherboard and find a new one that we both validate, because we can say on our test bench it's okay, but they have to validate that they can put this motherboard in the servers, that it won't change the cooling, that it won't affect electricity consumption. There's a lot of things to think about, and that might have a huge impact at that scale.
Okay, makes sense.
So, and we had another issue about the water cooling, because those servers are now water cooled. So it's kind of impressive to see, because they are really compact servers. It's a new design that we are now using, and including this water cooling inside the case was a huge challenge. Where they really succeeded in it, but we at some point we had an issue, so we had to reconfigure something in it. But now it's working really great, and now we're okay with it.
Okay, cool. So yes, to recap, the main problems that we encountered were the motherboard, scaling, also just the lack of being able to customize the servers for our needs, and then, as you said, the water cooling was also an issue. So those are the main technical issues that we encountered for Ultra and Infinite. Now the next question is, okay, those are delayed, but why was there no delay on Boost? Do you want to answer that as well?
So with Boost, it's easier because we already know the hardware. The generation for this hardware doesn't change a lot. So it's easier for us to find matching hardware to adapt our software. There's almost nothing to do but find the right hardware.
Right.
So it's much more easier because we don't change the cooling solution, we don't change the server disposition, anything about that. So just a few adaptations on some hardware, and that's all. So the most difficult part is to find the good price for the hardware, and that's all.
Right.
So it's easier for us.
Makes sense. So that was the technical side of things. We're now going to pass on to the communication and why we decided to wait until we did to actually give people the information that we would indeed be late. So here's the thing. At first, we thought that we could meet the deadline when we first announced this project. Yes, it was ambitious, but we knew that given with hard work, we could meet the deadlines.
And that's what we do ambitious things.
We do.
We don't do just planning in 6 months and say, okay, in 6 months it's fine to do it. We say we can try to do it in 3 or 4 months, and that's the target. And sometimes, you might say often, but sometimes we fail to reach that target. But
yes,
that's how we do, and that's what motivates us. We don't like to say we can do that in 6 months, because there's no challenge in it. We can do that in every other company to just plan, and especially in the release team, we could do that job in other company, just release 2 versions or 1 version a year,
right.
Make sure during 3 months that everything is fine. No, we don't work like that right now.
No, it's true. Exactly. So that's also kind of part of our DNA, who we are as a company. And so, as Arnaud mentioned, several problems emerged throughout the testing phase. And however, we had found several solutions throughout the process, which is why we had thought to not communicate so quickly, because we thought that, okay, we have a solution to the issues. This won't impact the actual
end results.
Exactly. Second, we wanted to really make sure that we give you guys the best possible compensation for our delay. So this had to go through many rounds of approvals to make sure that the higher ups were okay with it, to make sure that we were on the same page. So this was also a very important part of us making sure that you guys were happy, even though obviously you're not now very happy, but making it as happy as you can be with the situation, which is why we were able to offer you Shadow Boost for those who are waiting in the meantime with the boost price. Why didn't we stop the orders when we knew? Well, again, we're an ambitious company, and we thought that we could, even with these issues, overcome them and deliver all the orders. However, this was a mistake on our part. We maybe overshot on this one, and we should have stopped them much earlier.
There's something I want to add to the why there's some delay. The thing is that even for OVH, and this is why they were involved in these new offers, is because it was a challenge for them too. They have planned to work on those new hardware. Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah, maybe I did some faults in this.
No, that was good. I understand it.
Okay, I hope they understand it. So they wanted to work on this hardware in 2020. It was planned on the roadmap, and then we came and reached them, and they said, okay, yeah, it was planned for us, but maybe we can try to do it now in 2019. And they were really pumped about this project and said, we can do this in X weeks. I won't say how many, but it was the contract, and they delivered by the date, okay? But they were hoping to get some time to get it faster, mm-hmm. Okay? They were hoping to get it faster, and they almost did it. Clearly, they did an excellent job on this part. So we were also hoping that they could reduce the time, the predicted time.
Okay, yes.
Okay. Yeah. So that both of us could do the best we could, so we can reach the February target. And as we had issues during the test, we had to delay some parts, and then we were just on time as it was planned, but not enough to reach the first target.
Gotcha. Okay. Now on to the next one. So I think Arnaud touched on this already, and I did as well, is why announce dates that you can't keep? So again, in the context of the announcements, everything was planned and seemed to be on schedule. However, a lot of things changed quickly. We found a lot of bugs and errors, but we thought we can overcome them with certain solutions. And we didn't want to push the date forward. We wanted to deliver what we had promised to you guys on that date. However, unfortunately, that couldn't happen, and this is why we are in the current situation. So to recap the main issues, so we talked about the motherboard, scalability, and there's also a component shortage as well in certain aspects.
Yeah, because when you want to open a new data center, you just don't plug two servers in it. You want to put a lot of them, so that's a lot of GPU, of CPUs, RAM, motherboard, drives, storage to add. And it's how can I say? Suppliers don't have that stock. When you order that amount of hardware, they have to plan it for a few weeks.
Sure, okay? Makes sense.
You can just, even if you have the best relations in this industry with everyone, which is not our case, but OVH has some really good relations, mm-hmm. With Intel, with NVIDIA, with motherboard manufacturers that really helped us on this project. They can just make them produce faster.
Sure.
And they just don't have OVH as a client. They have to supply everyone. So sometimes you want to order that much because it's the right time, the right price. Your company has validated that move, mm-hmm. and it's just not the right market time to order them.
Yeah.
So
And especially, I mean, cloud gaming is such a new industry, and ordering all these GPUs, all these CPUs at once is not is it common in the end? Is it common or
no? Clearly
okay.
not. And even CPUs, because we use specific CPUs that are used for workstations or data centers, but they don't renew that much on one order. It's planned to switch by cycles, but on a long period. Okay, you just don't switch a third of your data center in 1 month. Okay, but that we did something like that.
Yes, so. Yeah. All right. So just before we head to the questions and answers, you will receive a dedicated email about your particular case on February 19th. You'll have a lot more information then. So in the meantime, you can stay tuned on Twitch. We'll be doing Saturday news every week up until then. And you can also check out our Discord for more information. So now we will pass on to the Q&A section. Now feel free to ask any tech-specific questions. Arnaud is here for that. He is the expert. So don't
the only
back.
One in the room.
Yes, because I am not. I'm just the host. All right. So if you see any questions that are interesting, let me know, and I'll do the same. So there's a question about the CPUs. Do you know each CPU in each tier? Can you list it off?
Yeah. So in Boost, it hasn't changed now. For now, it's still the same. We are testing some new CPUs, some new hardware for Boost, but right now it's the same.
Okay.
And for Ultra and Infinite is the Xeon W3235. I would guess. I know the numbers in French, but I have to translate that.
Well, I think you passed. And and so the Boost CPU is going to be actually the CPU that we use in our past configuration, correct?
Oh, no.
And then that was, do you know the exact model for that one as well?
So we have the 2667 and the 2678.
Okay.
V3.
Nice job.
Yeah. No.
So is the downgrade from Infinite to Ultra still possible? I believe you'll be able to jump from tier to tier.
Yeah, it will be possible, but for now you cannot change. I think, but when the orders will be delivered, I think it will be an option.
Okay. I see a question about yes. So we will have people who will have early activations next month on Infinite and Ultra. It'll be a small percentage, and the way we are selecting it will be at random. That's it. They're at random. We're not going to play favorites. We'll just do it randomly so that there's no frustrations from anybody.
So I see a lot about the US.
Yes.
When is it going to come in the US? We are working on it, but right now OVH is not. We are not using OVH to open those new offers in the US. So we are working with another partner to do so, and we are testing the hardware and doing the validation so we can deliver those servers in the US. But you will know, I think, a few more. The 19th.
And yes, the US is a very important market for us. We've definitely given some priority to Europe, but we want the US to eventually catch up to Europe and be in the same alignment in terms of products. So it's definitely our next big push.
The thing is that for us, mostly in the dev team, it's easier to get feedback from the French or European community because of the hours we develop and release things and the hours the users use it. Mm-hmm. So often we develop during the day and release at the end of the day, and then we get feedbacks a few hours later. So if it's a nightmare, it's a call in the night. But in the next morning, you know, if everything went fine or if there was a few bugs, and you can start fixing them directly. So it's easier because if it was in the US, with the delay, we could have some issues and fix it the next day.
Sure, makes sense.
So lose a day,
whole day,
of feedbacks and fix. So that's the way we do it, and it's easier to sometimes to communicate with a few users in French because when you give us feedbacks, you have your vision and your comprehension of Shadow, of how it works. So we have to make sure we understand clearly what you're experiencing, what is a bug, and so adding the language into that is something that adds complexity sometimes.
Sure, it makes sense.
Because you can understand what the person is saying, but you might misunderstand something just because you misinterpret, and then you won't be on the right track to find and fix the bug.
Makes sense. So there's a question from Flux System about the exact dates for the release of storage in the Netherlands.
We are currently adding new storage in a lot of data centers. So you will get some news about that very soon. But I know it's on track right now.
Okay. Yeah, I was told that storage should be available by the end of this month by Vincent. So
okay,
we'll trust him on that.
That's what is planned. So I hope we keep that date. Yeah.
I see a question about a data center in Scandinavia.
It's a market decision, and it has a cost. Opening a new data center is really hard because you have to find the right location, and the right location is almost a job in itself. Today, that what OVH is the most careful about, because at first they were saying we have to be in that city, and they didn't took care from their experience from what they say. I'm not saying they didn't. Okay, that's what Octave's CEO told us. They take really care about choosing the right location regarding of network connectivity. Of course, you don't just need to have fiber. You need to be interconnected with a lot of ISPs to make sure your network is the best for every user, whatever the ISP is using. And you have to make sure you don't have a lot of electricity cost. Depending on the city, on the region, you have a lot of variations, and at that scale, it's a lot of money.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So you have to check the building, make sure if you grow, it can take up the next volume and so on. So opening a data center is quite a hard job. So, and you have to make sure you're gonna fill it, because opening a building, plugging everything and just having 2 racks in it and in an empty space, it's not good for business.
Yeah, makes sense. I see a lot of questions about why we're choosing the first group of Ultra and Infinite as random. Now, the idea is that we're still testing these configurations, which is why we're rolling it out so slowly. We want all kinds of different users, from new to old to kind of people who've been there for only a while, in order to see habits, how people are using the configurations, the hardware, in order to optimize it. Can you talk about that a little more?
Yeah, the people using those new hardwares have to represent what is currently used in all our data centers. Because if we choose just a part of the community, as you say, they won't use it the same way as all our community.
Exactly.
And so to get the rest of the hardware, it will change the numbers. And then if we have users that uses a lot more their Shadow than our base, okay, than our average users, then we won't put the right numbers of servers and so on. And so we have to make sure that the next move is the right one to make sure it's a good business move. That's all.
Yeah, exactly. So it's not about being fair. I mean, this is a very small group which will benefit the rest of the community down the line. So yes, we want to make it as fair as possible, but also we have to think about how we can benefit the whole Shadow community and all of the users at once. So this is how we've decided to approach the situation.
And even for us, even if it's not that much a huge number, it's the first batch of users that will use for real this new hardware in production. Okay, in Battle for Hardware, it was a test platform, so when a bug happened, it wasn't such a big deal. Okay, it was. I'm sorry for you if you encountered bugs, but it was a test. In the production environment, we don't want that to happen. So we need to make sure everything is fine. And as it's the first time we're gonna put that specific hardware in production, and we don't have a backup. It's not like it was in one of our data centers, and we just in the same offer, in Ultra, we just added new hardware, and we can just switch back users if they had an issue on the previous hardware of Ultra or Infinite. We can do that because those servers are here in these data centers, and we don't have a fallback for that. So it has to work, and we have to be very careful so you won't have a emotional variation because you will be the first to be activated on Ultra and Infinite, and you will all have a big bugs.
Yes,
okay? Because it's gonna be very frustrating yes. for those users.
Exactly.
So we need to make sure that it's gonna be really smooth for everyone.
Yes, exactly. So I think for me, this makes sense, and it's also a business decision. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. This is very important to us in order to succeed as a business, as a company. So these tests are very, very important to us.
I saw a question from Eddie that is interesting. So as far as I know, my Shadow is currently in the original Paris data center, probably, which I don't think is run by OVH exactly, sure. So will it have to be moved at some point during the upgrade? If you're part of the people that will be activated in the first part on Ultra or Infinite, we won't be able for now to move your data in the new data center. We are working on a solution, but right now we cannot because we need to make sure that during the transportation of your data, it won't get how do you say? I lost this word. Compromised or lost or anything, because if we say to you, yes, it will be available as is in the new data centers, and it doesn't, it's a big risk for us because we said that your data will be fine, and we cannot do that to our users. The personal data of our users is really the most important. So you will go with a fresh Shadow, fresh window, just like if you had reset it by yourself. So you're gonna be, you will know before you get moved to that new hardware if you're selected. So you can do some backups of every data file you have on your current Shadow before being moved to the new location.
Okay, makes sense. I see a lot of questions about US storage release. So as we said, we are starting to look very seriously into rolling out the tiers, and I assume that will also include storage as well.
Yeah, and it's even independent. Okay. We are already working and have ordered, I guess, storage for the US data centers. As for Amsterdam, for the NL question. So it's gonna happen in the same period as for every data center.
Okay. So there's a question I've seen this come up from the same user. Which electricity do you use? Do we use? Is it
The green one?
Yeah, he's asking. Is it renewable energy in our data center?
I cannot answer that. You have to know that we rent those data centers. We rent some space in those data centers. We don't own them because we will be another company because it's a really different job to do so, a different business, and we cannot do both. Okay, that's really different. And I think we are in data centers that are, I can't say they are 100 green, but they have a lot. And there's a video, actually, we did a video about,
yes.
How is it called? In Amsterdam.
Interaction?
Yeah, interaction. And they answer that question. So they say how many green energy they use in the data center, because I'm not sure they were 100%, but they answer that in that video. So you're free to watch it.
Okay, cool. There's a question about, are shadow boost activations random? I don't believe they are. I think they are based on first come, first serve, but I know there's also...
Almost. Yeah, there's just a quick thing that I learned today is that we are first activating users that have never been users.
Okay.
So we know we had feedbacks from moderators who said, why I have 2-3 guys who told me the order on the announced date, and they are not activated yet, and we checked, and this is mostly because they were users before, and then when we did those activation, we took the site to do first new users. So if you're not activated yet, because activations, I think it was the last day today, so maybe a few more tomorrow morning, but I'm not sure. Most of them are already activated. If you're still not activated, it might be because you were you had an account at Shadow first.
Okay, makes sense. I saw a question about Shadow Ghost. If it's delayed, it will start shipping starting in mid-March. So it has a delay about 3 weeks from what we promised.
I saw one that we discussed at the office. What if I had the previous extra storage with the new offer? You will keep the space, not the data, as I said, because the data will be resetted. But you
reset,
yeah. It was weird. But you will have the same space. So if you had one extra storage and you go infinite, you will keep your 1 tera plus the 256 gigs of extra storage included in the offer, plus the amount of additional storage you might have choose during the order.
Right, and also the price does not change.
And the price does not change.
So
exactly. You will pay the legacy for storage, extra storage at the same price, and then the extra storage with a new price.
Yes, exactly. So we'll take a few more questions before we have to head out. Data center in Frankfurt, again, I think it's like the question, data center in Scandinavia. I don't think we've looked into it.
Yeah, and I think Frankfurt is not that bad with
Amsterdam,
even Amsterdam or the new data center with OVH.
Okay. Will the boost config be moved to only 3.4 gigahertz CPU?
That's the last one. So about the CPU, because I know we got a lot of questions and it's not an easy topic to understand. The thing is that, as I said, we have different hardware in our offers. For now, Ultra and Infinite just have one specific hardware, but it might evolve in the future. And right now, Boost have at least 2 kinds of CPUs and 2 kinds of GPUs. So the 3.4 displayed on the website is the average of frequency you might have depending on the CPU you have, because we have one that is turbo boost at 3.3 and one that goes to 3.5 or 3.6. So we put 3.4. And why Windows displays only 2.5 on certain CPU? It's because, and you can see that it doesn't fluctuate, okay? When you look at the frequency of your CPU on your computer, on your Windows, you can see that it's always fluctuating depending on what you're doing on your computer. Even if it doesn't move, if you have 20 Chrome tabs open, and it will fluctuate by itself. So, and so you can see that inside the shadow, it doesn't move. It's always the base frequency that is displayed, because when we start the shadow, we affect a CPU to your Windows, and we cannot change the frequency information live. We could change it when it starts, but not during the utilization. And the thing is that we are all, always at the best frequency because of the electricity stability and the cooling we have in our servers.
Okay.
Sometimes it might fluctuate on your Windows. You cannot keep at the limit because it's getting hot, or your computer alimentation is not stable enough to keep sorry, it's the end of the shadow news.
We're almost there.
To keep up with the load of the CPU, and so it will fluctuate at the limit. But with our solution in our data centers, it will almost every time be at the top frequency the CPU can be.
Okay.
But we cannot update the frequency live when you're using it.
Okay.
So it displays the base frequency.
Okay. Because there's a lot of questions around that, obviously.
Yeah. Yeah, and I get it,
notice.
because we display 3.4, but Windows say you're at 2.5, and that's not fair.
Yes, exactly. So the last question actually that I saw from two users or two viewers was, how many active users do we have at Shadow, and what is the split between country? So I can actually give you those information. We have about 75,000 active users currently at Shadow, and the split is around 27,000, I think. France, 25 in the US. US has been catching up. And then the rest is made up with Germany, UK, Belgium, Switzerland, the rest of those countries.
Netherlands.
Netherlands is also growing pretty fast because it's one of our countries that is live. All right, cool. Thank you guys for watching, and thank you to Arnaud for coming in and talking a little bit more on the technical side of things. That was very helpful for us. Again, remember that we're sending you an email February 19th with the information about your particular case, and we will be back next week with another Shadow News. So thank you guys, and see you later.
Bye.
Bye.